At family dinner, Dad leaned across the table and asked me quietly, "Son, is your allowance enough?" I froze with a fork halfway to my mouth. "What allowance?" I asked, confused. The look on his face told me everything. His eyes widened, the color drained from his cheeks, and for a long second, he didn't speak. That silence carried more weight than any argument ever could. Turns out, for the past 4 months, my dad had been setting aside $2,000 every month for me, money that was supposed to help me survive in New York while studying medicine. But I never saw a cent of it, because Mom had been hiding it. Instead of transferring it to me like Dad thought, she was funneling the money straight to my sister Olivia, the so-called golden child of our family, so she could live like a queen in Paris, sipping lattes at rooftop cafes, draped in designer clothes, while I was nearly starving myself to keep up with school. I'm Logan. I'm 19 years old. I grew up in Texas, but now I live in New York City, chasing my dream of becoming a doctor. My dad is a surgeon, respected, steady, the kind of man I've always admired. My mom? She stayed home, raised us, and managed the household finances. Or so I thought. When I graduated high school, I was proud to have been accepted into medical school in New York. It felt like a dream come true. But dreams have a way of colliding with reality. Tuition was covered by my parents, yes. But everything else, rent, food, transportation, was on me. So I worked, harder than I'd ever worked in my life, tutoring, event staffing, bartending, sometimes 2 jobs in the same weekend. My classmates went out to parties and joined clubs. I was too busy counting pennies for ramen noodles and wondering if I'd make rent. The exhaustion was constant. I'd drag myself into class half awake, my notes messy, my focus slipping. I worried, honestly, that I might fail out of school. Not because I wasn't smart enough, but because I simply didn't have the time or strength to keep up. And yet, while I was drowning, my sister Olivia was living her best life. She's 21, studying fashion design in Paris. Her Instagram looked like something out of a glossy magazine. Designer handbags, trips to Milan, champagne on rooftops, and always tagged with captions like, "Blessed" or "Thanks, Mom." I used to wonder, how could Mom and Dad afford all that? Whenever I asked Mom for just a little extra money, she said times were tight, that tuition was already a heavy burden and I should learn to be independent. But Olivia? She was special. She was different. When I was 12, I brought home straight A's, and Mom barely glanced at my report card. "That's what we expect from you, Logan," she said. That same day, Olivia showed up with B's and even a C or two, and Mom threw her a celebration. "She's creative," she told everyone proudly. "School isn't everything for her." That pattern never changed. So when I collapsed at work one night, literally collapsed, body hitting the floor of the bar where I was carrying trays of drinks, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. My body had finally given out from the lack of food, the sleepless nights, the endless hours. I woke up in a hospital bed, IV pumping fluids into my arm. The doctor said it was exhaustion, malnutrition, nothing life-threatening but serious enough that if I didn't change something, I'd end up back there. I called Mom afterward, desperate for help, and she said again there was nothing she could do. Tuition alone was draining the family finances. But that wasn't true, because across the ocean, Olivia was posting selfies in a Dior dress with the Eiffel Tower glowing in the background. And in the caption, she wrote, "Mom always knows exactly what I need." I flew home for the holidays on the cheapest red-eye I could find, 1 backpack, 1 change of clothes, and a knot in my stomach I couldn't shake. The house smelled the same. Lemon polish, roasted chicken, and something warm that used to feel like safety. Dad opened the door, took one look at me, and frowned. "You've lost weight." "I'm fine," I lied. He didn't buy it. We sat down, salad, soup, wings. It felt almost ceremonial. Dad asked, casual, but not really, "You eating all right up there?" "Not really," I said. "Ramen, day-old bread, whatever's on clearance." He blinked. "What about the cafeteria?" $5 is $5. He set down his fork. Is the money I've been sending enough? I heard the words, but they didn't make sense. What money? Something in his face cracked. He turned to Mom. Paisley, you've been transferring Logan's allowance every month, right? Silence. She stared at her napkin like it might answer for her. Mom? I asked. She exhaled, a soft, stubborn sound. I haven't been sending it. Dad's voice went low. Since when? Since he left for New York. My chair scraped back. 4 months? She looked up, chin lifting. You're resilient, Logan. You always were. Olivia needs more help. Paris is expensive, and that program, her future depends on appearances, on connections. She can't show up looking ordinary. Dad's jaw worked. How much? $3,000 a month, she said, like it was a utility bill. Sometimes more, when there's an event, or she needs proper clothes. How much more? Dad pressed. She tried to shrug it off. Another 2 or 3, depending. Dad leaned back, the blood leaving his face. 5,000 to 6,000 a month, while your son... He stopped, staring at me. While you've been living on noodles? I kept my eyes on my hands. I collapsed at work last week. Dad's head snapped toward Mom. You knew? She flinched. The bar called. I panicked. I didn't want you upset before finals. That was not your choice to make, Dad said, voice steady in a way that meant danger. From this moment on, I'm handling the finances. I'll transfer Logan's allowance directly. Olivia's budget drops to 1,000. Anything beyond that, she earns. You can't do that, Mom shot back. I just did. The rest of dinner dissolved into clinks of silverware and the hum of the refrigerator. I ate slowly, suddenly not hungry. Mom dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Dad stared into the distance like the living room wall had things to confess. Upstairs, I lay on my old bed and stared at the ceiling fan. Memories shuffled themselves. The summer I was told science camp was too expensive. The same summer Olivia flew to Italy for an art program. Her 16th birthday car. My, you can save up for one. Her framed sketches in the hallway. My honor cords in a drawer. A quiet knock. Dad stepped in, sat on the edge of the bed like he used to when I had fevers. I am so sorry, son. It's not on you. It is. I should have checked. I assumed. He rubbed a hand over his face. There's something else. The family trust, meant to be split between you and Olivia at 25. Your mother's been siphoning into a separate account in Olivia's name. I sat up. How much? About 300,000. My mouth went dry. I froze it this afternoon, he said. Our attorney's working to return the funds. We sat in the quiet, the kind that doesn't need to be filled. After a while, he said, I should have known. I should have asked more questions. You were in the OR saving people, I said. I didn't exactly speak up either. He nodded. That changes now. Later, my phone lit up. Olivia. I answered. What did you tell Dad? She demanded. The truth, I said. That I've been working 3 jobs and fainted behind a bar while you're tagging Chanel. She went silent. Is that actually true? Yes. I can't live on 1,000 a month in Paris, she said, voice high and brittle. Then you do what the rest of us do. You work. She hung up. The next morning, the house felt colder. Mom moved around the kitchen like a ghost, opening and closing cabinets she didn't need. Dad poured coffee, took a breath, and said, We're making changes. He listed them calmly. Separate accounts, direct transfers, oversight. Mom called it cruelty. He called it fairness. I kept my eyes on the mug and let them fight the war they'd postponed for 21 years. Before I flew back, Dad drove me to the airport. At the curb, he handed me an envelope. Back pay, he said. And your new card. Monthly transfers hit on the 1st. Focus on your studies. That's your only job. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He hugged me, tight, deliberate. You are not a burden. You never were. Back in New York, I did the most luxurious thing I could think of. I went to the grocery store. Real vegetables. real protein, a loaf of bread that didn't crumble at a touch. I cooked, ate sitting down, the way normal people do. The next morning, I emailed the bar manager and cut my shifts in half. I kept tutoring, loved it actually, but let the event gigs go. I slept. I studied. My brain came back online. And then the family started to move. Each of us, like pieces on a board, finally nudged into honest places. Dad separated finances. When Mom tried to sneak extra transfers to Olivia, the bank flagged it. There were arguments, apologies, then more arguments. Counseling appointments appeared on the fridge, then disappeared. Dad rented a small apartment nearby. He didn't slam a door, he just left it open and walked through. Olivia surprised me. At first she raged, threatened to quit school and fly home. When nobody caved, she found a part-time job at a boutique near her campus. Her texts shifted from "I can't" to "I did." She learned inventory systems, fabrics that look expensive but aren't, how to tailor a dress to dignity on a budget. "Constraints breed creativity," she said on FaceTime, holding up a clean, minimalist skirt she'd drafted herself. Who knew? Mom had the hardest time. The house felt too big for one person, then too small for the life she wanted back. She took a part-time job at a department store. "Just until things settle," she told me. I didn't argue. Some lessons arrive only with a punch clock and fluorescent lights. One night, Dad called and said, "I'm meeting with the trust attorney again. We'll fix this, I promise." "Okay," I said. And I believed him. Not because he's perfect, but because he was finally looking things straight in the eye. A week later, between lectures, a message from Olivia. "I'm sorry." I stared at the screen, at the little typing bubble that came and went. "I liked being special," she wrote. "I didn't ask enough questions about what that cost you." "We were kids," I typed back. "We learned what we were taught." She sent a photo, a window display she'd helped dress, clean lines, pieces that looked like money without costing it. It was good, I told her so. Mom called too. Little calls, weather, recipes, nothing that mattered and everything that did. Old habits tugged at her. "I can send a little extra next month," she'd offer. "You must be tired." "I'm fine," I'd say. "Keep it." Silence. Then, softly, "I'm trying." One Saturday, I walked past the hospital where I'd woken up with an IV in my arm. I stood there a minute, hands in pockets, watching the automatic doors breathe people in and out. Funny how collapse can be a doorway. Nobody recommends it. But sometimes the floor is what teaches you what a spine is for. By mid-semester, my grades were climbing. Professors wrote notes in the margins again. I joined the pre-med association. I heard my own laugh in a cafeteria for the first time in months. Sleep does that. Food does that. So does not carrying the weight of a family secret you didn't know you were holding. Then Dad called with one more truth. "There will probably be a divorce," he said, voice even. "We're trying counseling, but trust is not a light switch." I sat on the edge of my bed, the city moving outside my window. "I'm sorry." "I'm not," he said, and I heard something like relief. "I'm sad, but I'm not sorry for telling the truth." That night, I opened Olivia's latest message. A selfie after closing at the boutique, hair pulled back, no filter. "I like earning things," she wrote. "Didn't know that about myself." "Me neither," I replied. "About me." I slept like a human. The weeks that followed felt like living in two timelines at once. In New York, I was just a medical student again, studying, attending labs, making flashcards. At home in Dallas, though, my family was unraveling and restitching itself in a way none of us had expected. Dad moved into a small apartment close to the hospital. He decorated it simply: 2 armchairs, a bookshelf, a coffee maker always on. When I visited during spring break, he seemed lighter, even with the lines around his eyes deeper than I remembered. "I should have stepped in years ago," he told me. But late is better than never. Meanwhile, Mom couldn't accept the new order. She fought Dad on every decision, trying to sneak money to Olivia, trying to guilt me into siding with her. But after the divorce proceedings started, the truth came out in black and white. Bank records, transfers, statements that made the courtroom go still. The judge's ruling was decisive. Dad kept the house. Mom was ordered to repay what she'd siphoned from the trust. She walked out that day looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Olivia adapted faster than any of us expected. At first, she called me sobbing, furious about the reduced allowance. But working at that boutique transformed her. "I thought I couldn't live without luxury," she admitted once, showing me sketches pinned above her tiny Paris desk. "Turns out I just needed to earn my own." For me, the biggest shift was internal. With the allowance Dad now sent directly, I no longer lived in survival mode. I cut down my hours, slept more, studied harder. My professors noticed. One pulled me aside after an exam. "You've found your stride, Logan. Keep this up. You'll make residency where you want." Sometimes at night, I replayed that dinner scene, Dad's face draining of color when I said, "What allowance?" It felt like a moment where the ground cracked beneath us, but instead of falling, we finally saw what had been buried all along. A year later, life looked different. Dad, steady and present, calling me every week. Olivia, still in Paris but thriving on her own terms, her first designs gaining attention. Even Mom, though still bitter, was learning independence. She'd taken a job at a department store, her first real employment in decades. She complained, of course, but I could hear something new in her voice. Reality. 2 years later, Dad surprised me. He called with a softness I'd never heard before. "Logan, I met someone." Catherine, a pediatric nurse. Warm, kind, with laugh lines that told a story of her own. Watching Dad fall in love again at 52 was something I didn't know I needed until I saw it. And then, 3 years later, the full circle. Olivia's first independent fashion show. Paris, spotlights, music, Dad in the front row, clapping louder than anyone. Her designs were elegant but practical, beautiful but restrained, born from limits she'd once cursed. She caught my eye after the final bow, and for the first time, I saw my sister not as the golden child, but as someone who had earned her shine. Mom was there too, sitting quietly near the back, smaller, subdued, no longer the woman who pulled all the strings. After the show, she hugged both of us. "I'm proud of you," she whispered to me. Words I'd spent my whole life waiting to hear. Looking back, the collapse that almost broke me, exhaustion on a bar floor, an IV in my arm, was the crack that let the truth in. Painful, humiliating, but necessary. Because sometimes you have to watch a family fall apart to see which pieces were worth keeping. Now, in my 4th year of medical school near the top of my class, I finally understand something. Success isn't just about survival. It's about building with the right people, on the right terms. And maybe, just maybe, that collapse was the best thing that ever happened to me.